We move on to the keynote address, Retail Ventures 2030, Embracing the India Opportunity for a Transformative Future. To introduce the keynote speaker, may I invite our charter member Anand Mani, President, Calicut Management Association, Managing Partner, Sheinteriors. With decades of experience, he continues to drive innovation and excellence in the field of interior design. Ananda Mani will take the session forward.
Morning all. Standing before you, it's a pleasure this fine morning to introduce one of a legend of Kerala. I was talking to him while sitting there. It's a great to know about him. Mr. K. Radhakrishnan, Director, Tata StarQuik and former CEO, Reliance Retail. A brief about him, Mr. Radhakrishnan, he belongs to Trivandrum, our own Trivandrum, but most part of the time he was out of Kerala since 82. For a few periods, he was sandwiched between his official assignments in Kerala also. He currently serves as the director of StarQuik, a Tata enterprise, where he has been pivotal in shaping the company's B2C e-commerce journey. With several years of experience, he has successfully pioneered new business development, ensuring the online home delivery service for Starbucks and continues to thrive in the competitive market. A seasoned professional in grocery sector, Radha brings a wealth of experience, having previously co-founded grocermax.com, where he led the development of an asset-light model for online grocery delivery. His career trajectory includes leadership roles in Future Freshholds Limited, Reliance Retail India and Spencer's Retail, where he played an instrumental role in modernizing the supply chain and bridging new business opportunities to life. Radha's passion for creating value and his commitment to excellence have made him a respectful leader in the industry. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a warm welcome to Mr. Radhu. You may please come over. So the format of today's session is Mr. Radhu is having a slide presentation which will run for nearly 15 plus minutes, and then it is followed by a Q&A and also an interactive session. So without much loss of time, over to you, Radhu. You may proceed.
Thank you. This is the oddest earpiece I've ever had in my life. I guess I got to get used to that. All right. So good morning, Kerala. I didn't hear anything at all, so good morning, Kerala. All right, I'm going to start with a raise of hands, okay? Raise hands anyone who doesn't have a cell phone. Stupid question, right? Raise your hands anyone who has a cell phone which is an Indian-made, Indian brand, Indian-owned cell phone. Just look around you. Nothing. How many of you own a car? A four-wheeler? That's quite a bit. How many of you own a car which is an Indian brand, Indian-owned, Indian-made? 1, 2, 3. So what's so Indian about India? I get up in the morning and I brush my teeth with Colgate toothpaste. That's not Indian. I pick up my phone. That's not Indian. I switch on my laptop. That's not Indian. I use software of my laptop, which is not Indian. What the hell is Indian about India? And that's what I want to talk to you about. After all these years, we're still at the bottom of the food chain. No pun intended, but that's what we will discuss today. Next slide, please. All right, corruption. I think finally it becomes a bad word. I remember way back in 1974 when I was studying in Trivandrum. So now you know how old I am. There used to be a member of parliament called MP Manmadan. And he used to say, he used to feel that in 1974, the world had become very corrupt. My goodness, if he was alive today, I don't know what the hell he would have said. Manmadan sir പറയുമായിരുന്നു പണ്ട് corruption ചെയ്യുമ്പോഴത്തേക്കും ഒരു പുളിപ്പുണ്ടായിരുന്നു. People felt awkward to be corrupt. There was a period in our life, which I lived through, which is the major part of my life, where corruption ഒരു പുളിപ്പില്ലായിരുന്നു. It didn't have the awkwardness that it should have when you're actually corrupt. I hope today corruption is a bad word. Poverty, 170 million people are above poverty. At $2 a day, my goodness, that's not sounding very great. We've done well. Let's not sneeze at the 170 million. But $2 a day is somebody's yardstick. It's a Western yardstick. But I'm not sure we should consider ourselves and assess ourselves based on that. The three wonders, there's no parallel in the world where you have Aadhaar card, a bank account, and digital transfer at the scale at which India has done. I was driving through Malad. I was driving from Vadala to my home in Jogeshwari, and I had one of the CEOs of one of the largest companies who was sitting next to me. I was driving. So there's a guy in Bombay, it's always a habit, people bring peanuts in a packet. So this guy came to the left side, and the CEO asked, what's he selling? So I said, he's selling peanuts. So he rolled on the glass, and so I asked him how much it is, and he said, it's 5 rupees. I looked, I didn't have change. So I asked him, you have $5 on you? He said, no, I don't have change. So I rolled up the glass and told the peanut guy, sorry, I don't have money. This guy quickly comes to the driver's side, and he pulls out a QR code, right? And I take my phone, I scan the QR code. He just puts the 2 5-rupee peanuts on the dashboard, and he goes away. The CEO could have died in his seat. He couldn't believe his eyes that the peanut guy is actually accepting a digital transfer, right? 82% of India's digital transfer. How fantastic is that? I traveled to the US. I didn't do a single digital transfer. Single. I use credit cards, and I'm using cash. Jesus, the most advanced country is still using cash. UPIs. 8 billion transactions, Mudra Yojana, we have entrepreneurs of size, I'll talk about that. Ayushman Bharat, 50 crore people have benefited. Banking transformation, I don't think we give enough importance to banking transformation that's happened. The NPA has gone down to a lowest ever in the history of this country. I think that's good. And entrepreneurship, there used to be Abid Hussain, who used to be an economist when I was growing up, when I was studying economics. He used to say, brain drain. So the government was trying to stop people from going to actually fly out of India and get admission and work elsewhere. And for several decades, we never encourage our young people to go out of this country. But look what happens when you allow them to go. They go and head large companies. But I think we are having a brain gain. That's, I think, where we are. Next slide, please. The GDP growth, I think it's a phenomenal trajectory to be close to 4 trillion, right? And imagine the largest piece of that is digitized. And where there is growth, there is life. But only when there is good growth can there be good life. And Roshan, I really like what you said about good health. That's a great way to start. My grandmother, who died at the age of 92, unfortunately spent the last 10 years of her life in bed. And that was not very good. So she used to tell me in Malayalam, നല്ല ഒരു ചിത്രം ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ തൂക്കാൻ ഒരു ചെമര് വേണം. If you have a good picture and you don't have a wall on which to hang it, there is no point having a good picture. And I always say, Roshan, you should you tell the people you coach, you should treat your body. The house where you stay, you pay rent. What's the rent you pay for the body you live in? If you don't live in your own body, where else will you live? I think if there's no health, there can be no wealth. It's the biggest, it's a cliche, but that's the way it is. So good life, I think, is very important if you want to enjoy all the growth that you're getting. Don't look to the government for answers. Really, for us, the first thing you do is actually pick up the phone and curse or go to social media and, foul words to the government because they are not providing. This has nothing to do with the government. It's you and me. Look at China. China is a communist country. Don't think they're capitalist. If you travel to China, you will see it. You can hear it. You don't get newspapers. Google doesn't work there. It's completely enclosed. I used to go to the Guangzhou Fair in China. The Guangzhou Fair is 10 floors. Each floor is 20,000 square feet and 10 such towers. You could spend a lifetime and you wouldn't walk the entire Guangzhou Fair. Unless you go with specific appointments, you cannot do a good Guangzhou Fair trip. But every year you go, the same pencil is innovated. Door stoppers, some fixtures to actually align your shoes in your shoe rack. It's unbelievable. Did the president of China ask them to do it? Entrepreneurs do it. I think we're not good with our hands. We're very good with our head. We're not good with our hands. So don't look towards the government. When you want innovation to happen, just get out and do it. This is the freest country in the whole world. There are other countries who don't have the resources or the environment, but they're far more productive than we are. I remember traveling to Thailand when I was looking after a seafood plant. And I found that their minimum wages were 3 times India's, but their productivity is 5 times. What's the point if you're not productive? If we don't put our heads down and do the work that we're given in the best possible manner that we can. Next slide, please. Sorry, just go back. Really, can you just go back 1 slide, please? Yeah, so India is the largest, 5th largest economy, the 115th in per capita. I don't think you should sneeze at this because per capita is a reference to context, right? But surely, what we have in this country is a lot of entrepreneurs. We need to use that, and that's the topic we're going to discuss. Next slide, please. The next phase of transformation, the topic is transformation, is between you and me, right? It's about us. And the clarion call here is like in the state where we talk about Marx, let the entrepreneurs all unite. I'm not sure anybody can do it alone. We need to get together. And in my last slide, I'll talk about the difference between business and service. And that's something that we have to understand. And education and good health. ട്രിവാൻഡ്രത്ത് എൻ്റെ വീട് തെക്കാട്. തെക്കാടിൻ്റെ അടുത്ത് ഒരു വായനശാല ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. കുറച്ച് മാസം മുമ്പേ ഞാൻ അവിടെ പോയപ്പോൾ വായനശാലയിൽ പോയപ്പോൾ ശാലയേ ഉള്ളൂ, അവിടെ ഒരു വായനയില്ല. ആകപ്പാടെ ഉള്ള മനോരമ ന്യൂസ് പേപ്പറാണ് ഉള്ളത്. ദർ ഇസ് നത്തിങ് എൽസ്. 1974 അവിടെ കുഞ്ചൻ നമ്പ്യാരുടെ പുസ്തകങ്ങളും കവിതകളും അവിടെ വായിക്കുകയും ഡിസ്കസ് ചെയ്യുകയും ഒക്കെ ചെയ്തിരുന്നു. Nobody wants to read. I read 2 books a month. I read more than 100 books a year. What you can't know yourself, you must know from others. We don't teach our children to read. There is no diligence. There is no depth. We interview engineers. We interview operations people. They have no depth in what they know. They don't pass muster. Being an engineer is not what, it doesn't mean anything unless you know engineering. You know why we do so well in coding? Because it's overqualified people who are doing the coding. The engineers pass out, they shouldn't be doing coding. They should be doing far more than that. The call out here is the quality and the depth of our education and the diligence with which we do what we do. Next slide, please. So, it's always been a bug with me. All my life, everything that I've done has been a startup. Even when I worked with Reliance, my first job was to set up the first retail outlet in Reliance. And that was, so as far as I'm concerned, my life's been a startup. Startup doesn't mean that it is a two-man company. You can have a startup in a large company. Large companies do startups. So here is 3 things I want to do in my life. Women's story. Half of 1.4 billion is women. And any of the women here in this hall can tell me whether there is any store which is allowed only for women. Any store? Where only women are run by women and only entry for women. Do women have a private space? No. And I believe that lingerie is a 70,000 crore business. And we did a survey of more than 1,000 women. 80% of the women tell me that the lingerie they wear is all ill-fitting. I'm not asking you to say anything, but this may be the truth. This is the hidden truth. So here is an idea. The next idea is Just Walk India. I met a guy called Kapil Arora. He's an amazing guy. He has done probably all the marathons in the world. And I asked him, if there's a room full of 100 people, how many people are marathon runners? He said 1 or 2, maybe 3. Maybe 3%, 5% of the people actually formally run every day. So I said, what about the rest of the 97 people? They can walk, right? Yeah, they can walk. So we did a survey. We surveyed 500 people. Out of 500 people, 11 people actually run regularly. Of the rest, only 30% of the people even walk. The rest do nothing. Do you require a walking track? You have a car park? You can walk 200 meters up and down and make walk. So I walk 7 kilometers in 1 hour every day. Whatever time I come back at night. In Bombay, we spend quarter of our life in the car or in travel. But whatever time I come back, I walk 1 hour and I walk 7 kilometers. You can walk. On February 2nd, I'm launching an IP called #JustWalkIndia. You can find it. February 2nd in Juhu, 7,000 people will walk. I want to take it to 9 cities in the next 1 year, 120 cities in the next 2 years, where walking become the flag bearer of walking for good health. That's the least you can do for yourself. And the last one is the Football League. The most eco-friendly and democratic game is football, the beautiful game. Where is India? Nowhere. We can't even qualify for the Asian. We have 5,000 villages. How about a tournament in every village? You don't need a field. I'll do it in a warehouse. I'll set it up, a 5-a-side. That's the great vision. There's a journey. There's several other ideas. Why did I bring this? I'm not trying to raise money, but it's just to tell you there are entrepreneurial ideas you can do. Nothing of this I'm asking the government for anything. I don't need the government's help. The people are there. People must get together. So you want to be an entrepreneur, you need to have depth. You need to have diligence. And you need to have courage. The rest will come to you. Next slide, please. The consumer has evolved in the last 10 years. Next slide. And the 3 behaviors, the 3 A's that is driving India today. Aspiration. Freedom. I remember I lived in Delhi during the emergency. To make Delhi clean, they rounded up all the beggars in the city and took them trans-Jamuna to a place which is a nice village where they could live comfortably. What was the result? They all ran away. The primordial need of any living being is freedom. Not water, not food, and nothing. It's freedom. The ability to know yourself and to be able to assert yourself and live the life that you want to live is what every living being wants. Even a plant, it finds its way to sunlight. Because that's what you need. What you need is freedom. And I think in the last few years, for the first time in the history that we can remember, we have freedom to be able to think for ourselves, to be able to differ, to have a contrarian view. And I think that aspiration is today is available to everybody. When I was growing up in Delhi, in Hindi they say it, तुम्हारी तो सोचने की औकात भी नहीं है. You're not supposed to think, you're not supposed to aspire for something. Today, nobody can stop a young kid from aspiring. In a little village somewhere, a 10-year-old girl says, I want to be like Alia Bhatt. I want to go to Bollywood. That's the aspiration. My son keeps saying, when I'm 50, I'll have a Ferrari. I said, I'll be your driver. Right? God bless him with it, but that's the aspiration that is driving. Affordability, the tide has risen. Has it risen enough? I don't think so. There's a lot more that we can do. $2 a day is not rising of the tide. But I think there is money in the hands of people, at least better than where we have been. People, once you have aspiration and money, is left to the other brands. I remember talking to a juice company in Bombay. I work with Tata, so we are having a conversation. I said, how many SKUs do you have? He said, I've got 19 SKUs that we sell in Bombay. I went to Kalyan on a trip. He has only 5 of them. I called him and asked him, what about the other 15 SKUs or 12 SKUs? He said, I don't think it sells in Kalyan. Of course it won't sell because you're not making a product for India. I think many of the brands in this country are brain dead. They're not making anything for the villages. They're making only for the cities. If you want to make something for the tier 1 and tier 2 towns, you've got to make a product for them of the size and of the price and of the quality that they need. Nobody wants to take that trouble. India is unexplored, underserved, and underpenetrated in every single category you can think about. Whether it's cars or air conditioners or fans or ceiling fans, we are an underserved and underpenetrated country. Next slide, please. Therefore, the 3 A's, which is driven by the women folk who actually are in the workforce, the social media penetration, and the per capita GDP has grown, direct benefit transfer, rising minimum wages, and controlled inflation. We don't give inflation enough importance. I've lived through where inflation was 19%, 20%, which means a quarter of your wealth is eroded every year as you go from one year to another. Access with cell phones. That leads to confidence. It leads to comfort. It leads to choice. We all need choice. We all need to make our own choices. And we have the freedom to actually do it. Next slide, please. So what's disrupting what and who's disrupting who? That's my next question. Next slide. Is the consumer disrupting the model or the model disrupting the consumer? Any responses? Is the consumer disrupting the model or model disrupting the consumer? So I think, I don't know, right? The reality is there has to be convergence. Both have got to be ready. Several businesses have failed because they're early in their times. You got to wait for the right time. Your timing is everything, right? The cell phones. I mean, we must give Jio credit. By the way, Jio is Indian-made, Indian-owned, Indian phone, right? Indian network. That I think is a great work which connected all of us. Today, your driver and your watchman are sitting watching YouTube because they can afford it at the rate at which they actually pay for data. I think I'm running slow, so let me skip a few slides. I think education, inflation, social media, and global connect is changing the way the consumer is thinking, and the education and network and connectivity, penetration and venture capital. And I love venture capital because they are the risk takers. And they always say, and there was in Harvard, the first class that you actually attend is about actually venture capital, where they tell you the venture capitalists and talking about baseball, never think about what can fail. They only ask you how you can succeed. They don't worry about the strikeouts. The strikeout, they only worry about the home runs. That's why venture capitals are the most successful. You can be critical of them that they're funding some dud companies. It happens. 1 in 20 may fail, but the one success they get is good enough to make up for everything else. Next slide, please. That's where the retail is going. Because I am from retail, I need to talk something about it. I have 2 or 3 slides. If you look at it, quick commerce is becoming the flavor of the day. 10-minute delivery. Who's dying in 10 minutes, right? But to penetrate the head, penetrate your thinking, people had to do 10 minutes. And today, it's the flavor. Bombay, Delhi, Calcutta, I don't know whether 10 minutes happens in Cochin. Try negotiating the traffic, but whatever it be. But quick commerce is really the flavor. But the average bill value is low. Are they making money? They are all losing money. The top 3, 4 quick commerce guys have raised $7 billion. That's about as much as ISRO has spent in the last 20 years. Right? Is that a great business? No clue. Maybe it'll land somewhere. Good luck to the venture capitalist. We had one sitting here just now. He just left. Next slide, please. What are the prices? The prices are high. Customer has to make a choice, whether they want it in 10 minutes or wait some time or go shopping yourself. I've run retail stores all my life, and I think physical retail is coming back. What people are saying that internet is going to kill everything, kill all the stores, it's never happened. The growth of brick and mortar stores is healthy and it's good. So is internet. I think we are in a good place. Next slide, please. Next slide. You can jump this. So that's the summary where it is. Just go back one slide. That's a summary across the various channels. Traditional, modern trade, e-commerce, omni-channel, and quick commerce. You got to make a choice. The customer has got to make choice. All these formats exist in this country. All these formats are doing well. I'm not sure anyone is making too much money at this point of time, but they all coexist. Next slide. That's a summary. I have just one more slide. Next slide, please. And that's really my concluding slide, and for something for this audience to think about. A GDP is divided into primary, secondary, and tertiary parts. If you look at the way Kerala has gone from 1961 to 21, 52% is primary. What's primary? Primary is when you convert raw material into something. If you convert rubber into a floor mat, like my friend Naresh is here, his company does top floor. You know, they've taken rubber and they convert it into a product. That's primary. So, I'm sorry, primary is extraction, like mining, making rubber, tapping rubber, all that is primary. Conversion to a mat is secondary, and tertiary is services. So I have a question for all of you. Is this hotel a business or a service? It's a service, but they took land and built this building. The same business can be a service, and the same business can be a business. But if you don't do really good, strong, healthy primary, at some time or the other, service cannot sell. We have a phone, but that phone will not do any e-commerce if commerce is not thriving. What is the element which makes hotels work in Kerala? It's tourism. So tourism is like your secondary. You got to drive tourism for services to work. Most countries, even if you look at China, 16% is more than what Kerala is doing. 16% is still primary. Why? Now they are mining lithium because it is required for manufacturing of batteries. They are very strong in primary, but we become very slow in primary. We all become service. Why? Everybody can take a keyboard and code, and that's service. IT and ITE as a service. So we have to understand the difference between business and service. I do fruit and vegetable business. In Azadpur Mandi in Delhi, I used to buy pineapples. And there was a big truck which comes and lands full of pineapple. The board is KL. It's from Kerala, from Varakulam. That's from where pineapple comes. Kerala produced only 19% of India's pineapple. But Azadpur Mandi has got 80% from Kerala. Why? Because in West Bengal, which has 70%, or Northeast, which has 80% of pineapple, it can't even reach Delhi before it gets spoiled. But today roads are better, it could reach. But what are we doing about pineapple growth? Pineapple is grown whenever the rubber tree is tapped. In between that, you plant it and you get pineapple. It's almost like incidental. But what's the value addition in pineapple we are doing? Are we the biggest in pineapple juice? And as a state, you need to worry. Most of the coconut that you eat is coming from Tamil Nadu or from Andhra Pradesh. കടവന്തരയിൽ ഏത്തപ്പഴം വാങ്ങിക്കാൻ പോയാൽ ഏത്തപ്പഴം കാക്കിനാട എന്നാണ് വരുന്നത്. What are we doing? What is the transformation? Don't look transformation too far. Go back to your roots. And that's where transformation must happen. Transformation must start at home. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Radho. It was a very insightful presentation and a description. So we'll take one or two quick questions, but I'll start with first itself. So let's start with a question which probably everybody in this hall might be needing an answer when we talk about retail regarding embracing the future, transforming the future and all those things. Today, organizations are facing a set of challenges in multiple dimensions in terms of inflation, hyper competition and all those things. So branding plays a critical role in that thing. Okay, how companies adapt to these challenges in terms of creating new ideas, how to create in building one's own brand. What according to you is the future of or the future importance of branding in today's volatile world? And just because you were in many multiple MNCs, and how do you advise them regarding the importance of branding?
So the first thing that we did when we did raise of hands, when I said that how many people are using Indian brands, that was really the question I was asking. If you look at the IT industry, we pay $8 an hour to our engineers to do the coding. Somebody in the US takes that $8 and converts it into $16. And that is sold to Microsoft, and Microsoft sells it back to you at $1,000 an hour. Who owns the brand? The one who makes the money is the person who owns the brand. I struggle sometimes, and I'm asking you, tell me one brand from Kashmir to Kanyakumari that everybody uses. It's an open challenge. Tell me the name of one single brand that from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, everybody knows and everybody uses. You'll struggle to say it. You have to build a brand. Indians don't know how to build a brand. The shoes that you're wearing is Bata. Bata is a Canadian company. Or it's Nike, it's an American company. So to your question, if there's anything that we have to learn is how to build a brand. And brand building is not like service. You have to really work hard to build a brand. You must manage the customer's mindset. You must manage your technology. And in between, everything that goes, retailing, supply chain, all that things. And it takes years and years before something becomes a brand.
Thank you.
I think the politicians have done a better job of building themselves as a brand rather than somebody is making brands in this country.
Good example.
Unfortunately so.
One quick question from the audience. Anybody?
I think you just stunned them into silence, so that's good.
So I'll still repeat. What are the forces now you feel that is reshaping the retail market? And how do you were advising many points, how do you lead this change with the same continuity as far as India is concerned?
So when you talk of retail, it's not one thing. Grocery itself is $600 billion. All other retail together is $200 billion. Totally is about $800 or $1,000 billion. Each business has its own ways of doing it. You look at grocery business. Grocery business is, the retailer does not make anything. He is only buying, stocking and selling. Grocery retail business is a supply chain business. If you don't know how to buy the product, stock it and sell it within the credit that the vendor is giving you, you can never succeed in grocery business. You should always have negative working capital. If one vendor is giving you 15 days credit, you should be able to sell it every 7 days and rotate that money twice before you pay him on the 15th day. How many people know this? Nobody worries about that. The only thing is my eggs cheaper than the neighbor's?
Great point.
So grocery is about supply chain. Clothing is about design. So is jewelry. Plain jewelry, plain gold. People struggle to make money. What about the designs? That's where intelligence comes. That's where depth comes. That's where capability comes to transform something ordinary into a design. I mean, people are buying Louis Vuitton bags at 2 lakhs a pop, right? But why are they buying a Louis Vuitton bag? Because you attach a certain value to that bag. It's not like buying something on Janpat or, on Linking Street. So it's about how you build that brand, how you build it. So retailing is only the physical act. To build a brand is really the task.
How can, one more question from me, how can AI be harnessed, or what according to you didn't mention, in building, in reshaping this retail market in the present changing dynamics? Just so throw some.
I think we still have about 5 years to reach AI. First, get your company digitized. I'll give you an example. The company that I run, StarQuik, we don't generate a single piece of paper in the entire company, entire year. Not one piece of paper. Even coconut we scan. Even pineapple we scan. How? We use face recognition. All our pickers use the phone. The customer gets invoice digitally. First of all, get back to your company, get rid of paper, digitize your company, then talk about AI. I can tell you, you go to any company which is running here and you go and see their warehouse, there'll be files and files and files of paper. Our foreign collaborators came and looked at what I was doing. They came to my place in the store and said, where do you keep your files? I said, we don't have any files. I don't have any filing cabinets. You can do a paper, you can do a business without a single piece of paper. And if you do that, you will digitize everything in your system. AI baad ki baat hai. It'll take some time. I think there is no point jumping into AI if you're not digitized. AI requires clean data. Your data has to be stored. It must be uniform. Then AI can work on it. ML can work on it. You can do wonders. Today, people are unable to use even BI software to actually do the analysis. They have to take something from Excel sheet, something from somewhere else, and put it together, and VLOOKUP and horizontal VLOOKUP. What we have in our companies are like Excel sheet ninjas, who are like Excel sheet magic. But what we need is not that. Excel sheet is not doing work. It is just laborious work. What you need is understanding how data has to be stored in your company. I think we should call on AI after 5 years.
What is your opinion? Is it possible to build an umbrella brand for root products of Kerala?
First, I must know who's speaking.
Is it possible to build an umbrella brand?
Sorry. Where are you, sir? Oh, is it? Okay.
Is it possible to build an umbrella brand for root products of Kerala, like coconut, rubber, banana, pineapple, whatever you told?
There is no umbrella brand. For coconut, you need a coconut brand. For banana, you need a banana brand. You know, chiquitas consumed in Canada come from Latin America. I would entreat you to look at a YouTube video and say, banana plantation Costa Rica. In Costa Rica, they have used simple techniques to grow bananas. And it goes from Costa Rica in a container all the way to Carrefour in France. And the retailers in France and retailers in Canada have not changed the price of bananas for the last 30 years. There is no umbrella brand. You're asking for a shortcut. You're asking for a consultant's solution. It takes time. If you want to sell coconut, you want to make a coconut brand, you must know what it is doing for the consumer. Then you have to be better and better. You got to get cheaper and cheaper. You cannot make money from the consumer. Somebody asked Jeff Bezos, I'm trying to answer your question about what an umbrella brand means. Somebody asked Jeff Bezos, what will happen after 5 years? Nobody is going to tell you that. He said, no one wants it more expensive, so you want it cheaper. Nobody wants it slower, so you need it faster. Nobody wants it smaller, you want it bigger. You know the answers. So there is no umbrella brand. Everything has got to be built experience by experience for the consumer.
Shall I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
So one
Rajesh.
question.
One.
Yes.
Asking. Rajesh, please.
Yes, sir.
So I had The last slide was an interesting slide where you show the proportion in terms of the various sectors.
Yes.
Now, not just in Kerala, everywhere in India, we are seeing that shift out of manufacturing, unfortunately.
Yes.
How do we get that focus back? Because manufacturing is tough business, you know, capital intensive. And isn't it a lot more easier to, and that's what probably the entrepreneurs are thinking, that we should just do service business and, you know, it's a lot more easier, less capital intensive. You can start clocking numbers. And we have examples of some of these factories in Bangalore which have taken out the machines and set up cubicles and, you know, giving it out to call centers and, you know, GCCs. What do we do there?
I think it's a good question. We have to ask, and in the context of Kerala, it is more contextual, more relevant, is that here is where the government has to provide an environment for using that raw material more productively. For instance, let's take fisheries in Kerala. The businesses that Kerala lost, Kerala has a fragile economy. You can't say, let me put up a steel plant or a cement plant, because I don't think we have the land or nor do we have the environment to do it. Fisheries, shipping, finance, tech. These are 4 where we've missed the bus. So to answer your question, this is where the government has to allow entrepreneurship to come in the base industry. Make fishing easier, facilitate the harbors of fishing. Go to a harbor port and see. The fishermen are struggling to get a good facility to berth their ship, berth their vessels. And put money into, not in running call centers, give it to the people, encourage them to produce for manufacturing. China did that for 30 years. That's why they're leaders in cotton in the world today. Why? Because they went down to the strain of cotton. Their universities did research in cotton. Let me give you another example. Indian apples in Himachal Pradesh. We are using a cultivar which is more than 150 years old. Why? And you go to Washington. We are today consuming Washington apples from America. Because the Indian apple is not as turgid. It doesn't have 14 psi pressure inside the apple. By the way, if you have apple, you can test the pressure using the same car tire pressure meter. You'll see 14 psi for Washington apple. You'll see 6 psi pressure for Indian apple. Because it is a different cultivar. So, this is where the government must do work. You must focus intelligence and college education towards those subjects which allow the primary work to be done. Extraction, mining, rubber growth. Do we have the best production of rubber per acre in the world? Maybe not, but why not? Why not? So universities which have the intelligence, and in the United States they do it so well. You know, I was in aquaculture. Sorry, I'm just taking a minute. We've already extended time. I'll give you this example which will tell you. While I was doing aquaculture, I spent 40 days with Dr. Boyd. Dr. Boyd was from Auburn University in the United States. Dr. Boyd even then was 70 years old. And I spent 40 wonderful days working with him in the field as far as aquaculture is concerned. He would do 40% of his time in the university, 60% of the time with the industry. He would publish the paper in the name of Auburn University, but the money was shared between him and the university. Our universities are so old, outdated, uninteresting. My son, who is a mechanical engineering nerd, he was telling me while he was doing he was mechanical. He's saying there was a 10-mark question about carburetor of a car. We don't use carburetors anymore in the car. It's a 10-mark question for mechanical engineering. It requires an overhaul. To answer your question, it's not one thing. It's about the way we think, the way we study, and the way we make money. There is no reason for primary people to be at the bottom of the food chain and all the service guys make the money.
Sorry, can I take one question?
Yes, sir. Sir,
One last question.
Sir, many domestic brands, after building a brand for many years, 20, 25 years, after the entry of national, international players, they are not able to, further take up. So whether the consumer behavior disturbed the model or model has disrupted the consumer behavior.
Actually, I can't see who's.
This is the last question.
Yes,
Can you
sir.
stand
Oh,
up and
hi.
speak?
Yes,
You-
sir.
Sorry, I just want to repeat the question. You're saying whether local brands are
Yes,
being...
sir. Many domestic brands have already built a brand and they are survived for 25, 30 years. So after the entry of national, international players, they are not able to survive in the market. So
Only the
what
good must survive, whether you're local or whether you're international. We should not subsidize anybody. Why don't the local brands make something that's world class? I'll give you an example. Amul. Amul. Dr. Kurian made Amul. Even today, nobody can match Amul in this country. I was expecting somebody to say, Kashmir to Kanyakumari, the only brand everybody knows is Amul. Today, we've started exporting Amul to the United States of America. He's a local brand. He's in Gujarat. Go to Anand and go and see what they actually do there. People told Dr. Kurian, because you are using buffalo milk, you cannot spray dry it. He said, I'll show you. 70% of milk in Gujarat is buffalo milk. And he spray dried it and he showed the world what we can do. There is no problem being a local brand.
Sorry, audience.
Yes, sir.
Please
The
cut
other
short.
sector brands
Please.
fail to fulfill the expectation of the customer. So what? We are not buying the Indian brands?
I
Madam, we can take it offline.
I think somebody is going to disconnect my phone.
Yes.
We will discuss it outside. But simple answer, adopt the international technology and beat the international guys at their own game.
Sorry,
There's no
audience.
other way.
It was a pleasure to keep this session going,
Yes, sir.
to know more about this from a legend who just recently was directly reporting to Noel Tata. I was just hearing it from him a short while ago. He was directly reporting to Noel Tata. So grateful to you and the entire audience. I hope this session has resonated well with you, and the questions itself shows how much it has succeeded. Sincere thanks to each one of you on behalf of TiEcon. Back to you, Nisha.